Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to SAKT class. And tonight we have our presenter here, Mr. Jude Nwanko. So last week, we discussed on tomato production one. That was the first series of this tomato production. So our presenter last week, learned uh, discuss more on the market. Was keep mentioning market that before you can go into any production, you have to know who you're selling to. That is very important. It's not that it's okay, this thing is selling, then I want to go into it. So you have to have your own market first, know who you are selling to before you go into nursing your seedling. So and also it discussed on the hardening, discuss so many on the processes or know how you can grow tomato successfully. But now today is going to continue this series, and this is tomato production too. So good evening, Mr. Jude, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
So you can move on, sir. So without wasting much of our time, so you can move on, sir.
Okay, thank you for that. So, so last week we stopped at integrated fertilizer and nutrient management, and we are supposed to under it looking at the fact that we don't need to rely just solely on synthetic fertilizer or chemical fertilizers, that is inorganic. So we say instead of relying solely on inorganic, you need to look for a way to bring in other fertilizer sources that are not inorganic, that is organic, to complement or to just add to your inorganic, just to ensure that you don't just rely on inorganic. And one of the advantages of that is that it will help you to also cost, cut on your production cost. And also aside that, your plant also need those things. Your plant needs those things as well, because along the line, you may need some of those things too to help the plant to be in good shape, because it's not just always about synthetic all the time. Synthetic is not always, there are some seasons it will not really work well for you. So aside from the cost aspect, but I think I stopped at the vegetative stage last week. So before we go deeply into today's topic, like you have made try to refresh on what we did last week, you made mention of the importance of securing your market as well. So I also like to add a little on that market as well today again. So no, like I started by saying that some people may be wondering, why did I begin by hammering on or emphasizing on market, the importance of securing market. So now, this is it now. To add to that, to an extent, to a great extent, it is even better to be good, to be a good seller rather than a good producer. So it's good to be, it is even better to be good with the market aspect than to be good in the production aspect, because when you produce, by the end of the day, you cannot sell. So let's always have that at the back of our mind. I began by saying that the success of your cycle, of your production cycle, is not determined by you achieving tons, hundreds of tons. No, it's being able to sell what you have produced, so that the buyers out there does not dictate the price for you, or the whole thing doesn't end up in waste. Now imagine you're able to produce 200 tons of tomato for an acre, and then by the end of the day, half of it went to waste. So now imagine. So let's go on without wasting much of our time. So I will look at the vegetative stage. We want to now continue from the generative. The generative. That is the next slide. So, and we say the generative stage, we said you need to focus on achieving thick stem, robust stem, more leaves, enough foliage, and then healthy root. Those things. So let's look at generative. Generative, here I say the generative stage is the reproductive phase of the plant, focused on producing flowers, fruits, and seeds, rather than just foliage. At that stage, foliage is also still important, because it has its functions apart from just foliage now, which is the leaves. The leaves are the foliage. So apart from just producing leaves, at this generative stage, you now need to shift the plant focus. In the vegetative, the focus was on stem, root, heady root, then leaves for photosynthesis and other functions. Then, as the plant keeps on going, to keep on producing leaves. But when it's now getting to the generative stage, you need to shift. You, the farmer, you are the one to do that shifting of focus. You shift the plant's focus from being vegetative to being generative. So how do you do that? You are able to do that through your nutrient regimen. You're able to achieve that. You should be able to achieve that through your nutrient regimen. It means that when you're approaching that generative state, which is usually from fourth week to eighth week, you shift, you change, you switch. So you lower your nitrogen from that place, then increase your potassium supply, phosphorus and other things. So he said this phase usually begins from the fourth week after transplant. Then at the generative stage, the nitrogen supply to the plant is expected to be reduced so as to discourage it from producing too many leaves or getting bushy, but to focus on flower and fruit. So like I've said earlier on, you need to now shift the plant focus from leaves to flowers, fruits and other important aspect or other aspect of the plant. So e say at dis stage more of phosphorus and potassium will be required for flowers and fruit, because dis things dey help the fruit settings. Dey have flower settings, fruit settings and den fruit development, not just settings, fruit development. And den the essence of potassium is not just fruit now. Potassium still all about the overall health of the plant. Potassium helps the plant to be in good shape at all growing stages. So I say and then calcium for fruit firmness, fruit quality and ex ten ded shelf life. So why do you need to supply calcium? You didn't just started supplying calcium at this stage oh. Calcium started from the very beginning. At the beginning we talked about you needed calcium for a strong cell wall, and I gave a scenario, I gave example like a human being that doesn't have a strong immune system or healthy immune system, you'll be easily prone to disease, prone to sickness or prone to illness. Just same thing applies to the plant. So from the early stage, the plant also needs calcium to develop strong cell wall and other things. Then at the later stage too, when it's now getting to the generative stage, it also still needs calcium supply. Maybe you may have to cut it down, but you still need calcium supply for what? At this stage now, for fruit firmness, fruit quality and then for ex ten d, because calcium have a role to play in ensuring that the fruit, you don harvest fruit today, it will start rot ten tomorrow or it will start going bad tomorrow. No, calcium have a role to play in all that. Also to keep the fruit, to how the fruit comes out, that's the firmness and the quality. So we need to proceed. So at this phase, the aim is to encourage flower production and fruit setting. So let's look at the essential elements now. All these ones we're talking about, they were really, although let's now look at all the essential elements required, because from the beginning I only touched about five, which is NPK, then calcium and magnesium. But now, apart from those ones, there are still other essential elements the plant needs, and they will also look at their roles. Maybe we'll need to rush through this one quickly to be able to touch other things. Then number one, they'll have nitrogen. Nitrogen is essential for vegetative growth, forming chlorophyll, amino acid, and then proteins. We have phosphorus, crucial for energy transfer, root, flower. I believe everybody can see this slide. I don't have to rush through this one. So let's just look at the slide. Then you have the potassium, the calcium, the magnesium, the sulfur. Look at their roles they play. The next slide. Then now, let's look at the micronutrients. So initially we have looked at I will look at the other essential elements. Just look at now. They are the macro. Let's now look at the micronutrients now, which also known as stress elements. For some of us that we have, so for some of us that we are already farmers, we grow crops. Sometimes you buy some fertilizer. You buy maybe, yeah, NPK in particular. You buy NPK and you see something like, maybe let's say NPK 20 20 20. Then you now see something like plus TE. That plus TE there simply means trace elements. Talking about, is telling you that, oh, this fertilizer is not just made up of NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. There's also some trace element inside. So that is what that TE plus TE, that's what it means. It's telling you that you can also get some trace element, even if it's not all of them. Some of them are there. And also these trace elements, they are required in small quantity, not really in large amount. They are required in small and crucial amount. So I have number one there, the iron. Iron is necessary for chlorophyll. It's necessary for chlorophyll. So iron supports the work of nitrogen as well for photosynthesis and also other things. We have manganese there as well. It aids in photosynthesis as well, and enzyme activation. So you can see that these guys, they have a way they interwove with the other element, the macro element and other. You can see that you need them because they have a role. They have a way they interwove with all these ones to ensure that the plants are in good shape. So you can see the last one there, the nickel is required for iron absorption. You can see how they help each other, but you must not oversupply. When you oversupply, some can antagonize some. When you oversupply, like for example now, when your magnesium and your potassium is too much, it can antagonize other elements. So let's go to the next slide. So this is a pictorial representation of the vegetative and generative stage. You can see there, focus is on leaf, stem, root development, high nitrogen demand, photosynthetic capacity builds. That is at the vegetative stage. These two stages are very important. They are very important. So one of the things that will determine the success of your production cycle is when you are able to balance things at these stages. I will come again. So one of the things that will determine how successful your production cycle will be is when you are able to balance things at these two stages, these two major stages of the plant, vegetative stage and generative stage. So let's look at the generative stage now. Say flowering, fruiting, seed setting. What does it require? It requires phosphorus, potassium, calcium, and the micronutrients. So at this stage, you have a hormonal shift. Hormonal shift usually occur, which will now result to flower initiation and fruit start setting. Just like human being, we all have our different growth stages. Like the toddler, you have the children. So as they are growing, they have different requirement, different mineral requirement, different nutrient requirement. Next slide. But you must be able to balance things for you to get your result. If you miss it at the early stage, so you need to really balance things, know what to do per time, know what is required, and know when to shift, know when to shift the focus of. Don't keep, okay, I think I might have skipped something. Take note, tomato itself don't like too much nitrogen. I hope you can all hear me. Can they all hear me? Can we hear me? That's fine.
We
Okay,
can hear
that's
you,
fine.
sir. We can hear you, sir.
So I'm can hear you, sir. I was just trying to chip in a point that I might have missed earlier on. I forgot to put in. Tomato on its own doesn't like excessive nitrogen. I will tell you what excessive nitrogen can do to tomato. So when you as a farmer, even you can even be as a result of the fertilizer you are supplying to your plant. So don't okay, maybe let's say just supply normal nitrogen, but shift it when the plant doesn't require it anymore, because excessive nitrogen can harm your tomato. So one of the things excessive nitrogen going substrate, and for tomato plant, when the pH becomes low, a lot of things can start happening. Tomato can start witing. The soil now can enter acidic mode. That is that. So, and again, when the nitrogen is too much, again, too much leaves and other things to so, and again, it can also go on to affect the fruiting and the other. So tomato is itself don't like too much nitrogen. So let's look at the next slide. Weed control. As we all know, weed is defined as unwanted plant, so it should be properly controlled on your tomato field, so it does not get to compete with the plant for space, sunlight, water, and nutrient. So we need to, I mentioned earlier on that while you are preparing your soil, after preparing your soil, you mulch for a lot of reasons. One of the essence of mulching is to control weed as well. Control weed control weed so that the weed doesn't come up and start competing for nutrients and other things. So aside from competing with your plant, weed can also harbor or host some destructive pests that will likely target your plant. So apart from this other negative effect of the weed on your plant, apart from competing for space, competing for sunlight, competing for water and nutrient, the weed can also serve as a host to these pests that want to target your plant. Now imagine as a farmer, your farm is bushy, or you have weed, too much weed around, and you spray. Now imagine when you spray, those pests will leave your tomato plant, they will come on the weed, and then after the chemical have weed off, they will now get back and continue their damage. So that's why you need to always keep your tomato field clean, free from weed. Very important. Then the method of weeding should be done manually, that is hand weeding. So rather than using herbicide in order not to harm your plant, although we know that in the market there are some selective herbicides, but if you are not too sure, if you are not really sure of that selective herbicide, whether it will harm your plant or not, just go for manual weeding. That's why I put manual weeding here as the best option, because some farmers may not really be sure of this selective pesticide herbicide, sorry. So let's look at the next slide. Then pruning, another important aspect of the production cycle. Pruning. So let's look at pruning. Pruning is the removal of specific plant parts such as branches, buds, suckers, leaves, or fruits to improve plant health, structure, yield, and overall performance. So why do I need to prune? There are a lot of reasons you need to prune. So pruning itself, although I may say that in some cases pruning may not really be necessary, but in a situation whereby it is necessary, it is deemed necessary, you just have to do it, and you don't just do it, you need to do it at the appropriate time. So when it becomes necessary, it means that you need to prune. For you to prune, you need to prune for your plant to be able to develop well. Because one thing I've come to discover about tomato plant is that tomato plant tend to develop a lot of shoots, a lot of stems, a lot of branches, suckers, leaves, and so on. So when pruning becomes necessary, maybe in a controlled environment, when pruning becomes necessary, you need to do it promptly. You need to do it at the appropriate time. Why do you need to do it? So the reasons are there. Like I say. So when it comes to pruning, let's look at the slide. And when it comes to pruning, it's determined by some factors. One, are you doing outdoor or greenhouse cultivation? So pruning is encouraged for greenhouse cultivation for some reasons. And again, even while pruning, why do you need to prune? What do you want to achieve? Is it quality or quantity? These are things you need to answer before you say, oh, I need to prune my plant. But if it is indoor, you really need to prune. So let's look at why you need to prune, with emphasis on greenhouse now. To structurally support the plant. Two, to promote airflow. Three, to encourage or promote overall plant growth and development. Fourth one, to boost flower and fruit production. The last one, to encourage fruit quality by allowing the plant channel energy to where necessary and not developing too many stems, shoots or leaves. So looking at tomato plant itself, it it tends to produce a lot of all these things that are not really necessary. So now I want you to like picture your tomato plant as a toddler. Picture your tomato plant as a toddler that doesn't know it him or her right from the left. So see your plant as a toddler that don't know its right from its left. It doesn't know where to go. It doesn't know what to do. You are the one that will tell the plant what to do. You are to tell the plant, this is what I want you to do. Just like toddlers that don't know what to do. So when you are seeing excessive stem, excessive that, you need to like, maybe you want to achieve fruit quality, you need to take out some stem. You can maintain 2 or 3 stem. If it is fruit quality, maintain 2 or 3 stem. Because when there are too many stems, there are too many flowers. In fact, in some cases, when there are too many flowers indoor, the thing may just end up converting maybe few. If you come to a cluster of flowers, you just convert 4. Maybe in that cluster of flower, you have like maybe 11 flowers. The thing will just convert maybe 3 or 4 for you. And that's why to just do it in different layers. So why do you need to prune? You need to prune. Even say in some cases, you can even prune flowers. Okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, if you are targeting quality, fruit quality, for example, you have 11 flowers in a cluster, you can trim off like 4. When you trim off 4, you want 7 to convert. So that 7 that will convert, by the end of the day, everything will have uniform size. The fruit will have. So these are things you need to like take out to telling the plant, this is what I want you to do. So that's why I say you need to see your plant as a toddler that doesn't know what to do. Right from the left. So when the plant is not having too many leaves, you prune out, because too many leaves means that the plant is overworking, you're overloading the plant. So the nutrients are supplying, let the plant channel it to where necessary. If it is fruit, if it is more flower, if it is to overall plant health and all that. So that is that. Next slide. So still on the pruning, when you are doing outdoor cultivation, it's not really mandatory to prune. Why? Because there's already enough airflow for the plant. Two, outdoor tomatoes do not stay too long in most cases. So the life cycle is already shortened. Though there are some varieties that can stay longer, but it's not really advisable to do indeterminate varieties outdoor, except you can really manage it. It requires a whole lot of work. So, and again, I say it can be time consuming depending on the number of stands there. Now, for example, outdoor tomato producers, in an acre, you want to have like 10,000 stands, maybe something like that. Maybe if you are doing 30 centimeters spacing, for people that want to have enough population. So now imagine that kind of in that kind of scenario, pruning a lot of work to be done. So that is that. So it just depends on, it's just on you. Just do what is best for you. Because by the end of the day, it still boils down to the farmer. Just do what works for you. So the essence of this is just to know what is applicable, what is obtainable generally. That is that. Next slide. Next slide. So on the next slide, we'll have common tomato pest, disease, and controls. So this place we are approaching now, I wanted to actually put some pictorial representation before, but I tried as much as possible not to have very bulky slide and all that. Just try to like limit the slide to maybe just few slides. So if not, I wanted to actually put some of these pictorial representation of these pests we are talking about. But I believe that as farmers, we're already familiar with some of these pests. I don't want to believe that we have some beginners, though we may have some beginners amongst us. Those. So that's why I wanted to include it. But at a point, I feel like the slide is becoming too much. So please pardon me for that. So common tomato pest disease and their control. Under pests to have aphids. So what are aphids? Aphids are small sap-sucking insects that stunt growth and coil leaves. So what that means is that they suck the aphid can be in they are in different species in different colors. Sometimes they appear to be green. So don't mistaken it for another thing. They can be in different species, but whatever species, their damage can be can be highly destructive. And it doesn't just it doesn't just suck the sap of your plant. It can also transmit diseases. If it can transmit diseases like some viruses like cucumber mosaic virus and other things like that. So that's why I need to really take care of them. For their control, you can spray with strong water jet, use insecticidal soap or apply neem oil. This one now is biological. There are other chemical controls as well. For chemical control, you can spray with imametin, benzoate and others. You can also spray with you can mix you can mix lambda and imidacloprid. You can mix lambda and imidacloprid. So, and there are still other active ingredients too that works for aphid. There are other active ingredients in the market there. So, but I always allow, yeah, I'm just focusing on biological, mechanical, biological, because normally under the principle of IPM, chemical should always be your last resort. Under the principle of, so that's why I need to like adopt different methods. Though we'll still get to IPM sha. So another one is under pest. Another one is tomato hornworm. So they are large green caterpillars that defoliate plants. These guys, they can be destructive as well. To control them, they are very large, but sometimes you may not notice them because of the color. So when they are there, when they stick to your plant, you may think that is the plant stem you are looking at. So sometimes they are so trickish, you may not really see them because they are also green in color. So you can handpick them. You can introduce some beneficial insects to deal with them. Then white flies, another deadly one again. This one also transmit disease. They feed on sap as well and they transmit viruses. White fly, these guys can be really disturbing and they can be difficult to control sometimes depending on their population in that area. Sometimes to break their cycle is not really easy. And again, depending on the season as well. Their control, you can use yellow sticky traps and insecticide soap. This is still biological and physical or mechanical. For chemical as well, same thing, almost same thing with aphid. You can use those active ingredients I've mentioned and some other active ingredients in the market. Then you have thrips, another damage one as well. So let me try to differentiate these guys now. The aphid, the whitefly, and the thrips, they are actually classified as sucking pests. They are known as sucking pests. And this their class, their damage is more severe than the chewing and the biting pest. These ones, their damage can be so severe. So how do you control aphid? How do you control thrips? Sorry, use your blue sticky traps, insecticide soap or neem oil, biological, mechanical or physical. Then you also have your chemical. Then disease. Let's look at disease quickly. Our time is fast spent. Disease. And we have our disease there. So the first one on the list is early blight. This guy, early blight. So sometimes some farmers normally they usually mistaking early blight and late blight. Their symptoms, their symptoms are not the same. And again, you hear some farmers will be like, you ask them, what is early blight, what is late blight? Some will be like, early blight comes at the early stage of the plant, and late blight comes, no. They can come at any stage. Once the favorable condition is there, and they can spread very fast, especially late blight. Even early blight itself, once the favorable condition is there, the damage will be so let's look at the symptoms of this early blight. You have your dark concentric spot, dark first, then concentric spots on the older leaves. So you have something like this spot sometimes can be bigger. Sometimes it may not just be, sometimes it can be just be a spot, but sometimes it can be wider, it can be bigger. So how do you control it? You prune the affected leaves, you improve your air circulation, and then you apply some fungicide. So this one now is chemical control. So that is the most effective way to actually tackle this guy. So now note, observe, there's something there. For you to really deal with these guys, you need to ensure that you have adequate airflow. When you don't have enough airflow for your plant, it can promote the growth and development of these guys, this early blight. So when you overpopulate, that's why I was making advice, don't overpopulate your field or your greenhouse. When you overpopulate, you can actually give guys give these guys the room to thrive. So they thrive in a choked. When the field is choked or overcrowded, they can develop very fast. So the plant need airflow to actually discourage the development. So sometimes too, some farmers may not really bargain for it. Let's say it didn't even grow in the season that favored it, but sometimes when weather fluctuates too, it can encourage the development of this early blight. Fluctuation in weather, maybe it rained, warm, humid. So some kind of weather fluctuation can also encourage the development and the spread as well. So you apply some fungicide like you can use mancozeb, you can use copper. There are other active ingredients as well. Then you have late blight. You have your late blight. So how do you identify late blight? Water soaked spot on leaves that rapidly kill the plant, often during wet weather. This is late blight for you now. This is late blight. So maybe try to differentiate between late blight and early blight. I can tell you that this late blight is more deadlier. Is more deadlier than early blight. You can actually have early blight in the house, just spot on the leaves, starting from the lower leaves, advancing. But this late blight, the way the guy spreads like white fire. You may see it today. As long as the condition is there, before you know, in the next 1 or 2 days, your feed is going. If you don't act fast, your feed might be going, and it reduces the lifespan or life cycle of the plant very fast, very very fast. So you need to really, once you see it, you need to act fast. You can prune out the affected leaves and then control with your copper fungicide. So that's how to control, remove the affected leaves and then spray with your copper fungicide. You can rotate with mancozeb as well, but start with copper. They have the fusarium and the verticillium wheat. This one, they are soil-borne fungi that causes yellowing, wilting, and death. These guys now, it can be in any tomato field. It can just come. Even when you are not expecting, it can just come. No matter how you sterilize your house, your soil, your substrate, the guy can just come when there is something that favors it there. Sometimes it can be from maybe the seedling, where you raised your seedling. So the guy can just come. If you wonder how did this thing come, I actually sterilized my soil, did this, that. It can come. So how do you control it? Through crop, because these guys, it's not easy to break their cycle. When they come, to control it is not easy. So one of the ways you control it is by practicing crop rotation. Another way to control it is by planting resistant varieties. There are some varieties that are actually very tolerant to heat. There are some tomato varieties that are actually tolerant to heat. Even if it is there, nothing will happen. So always look out for V or F on your tomato labels. Whenever you buy tomato seed to sow, look at, oh, what is this one resistant to? Is there V on the label? Is there F on the label? What is it resistant to? Is it resistant to fusarium? For V, verticillium. For F, so what is it actually? So that's why you need to look out for all these things. Then powdery mildew is a white powdery spot on leaves. Another bad one. To control it, fungicide, sulfur dust, or spraying a mixture of milk and water. This one may not really be effective now. So the fungicide may be the most, once it is there, fungicide becomes the most effective control approach. Then you have your bacterial speck, small, dark, water soaked spot on leaves and fruit. To control, use copper fungicide and avoid overhead watering. Yes, one of the things that causes this one is when your plant is harboring water on the leaf over time. So when farmers tend to have issue with this one is during rainy season. During rainy season, so you have your bacterial speck, you have your bacterial spot. Some people may mistaken bacterial spot for bacterial speck. They are not the same thing, though their symptoms may look alike, but they are not the same thing. So what encourages both of them is wetness on the leaf, overhead watering, wetness on the leaf. So they are so common during rainy season. Then you have your blossom end rot. This one now is a disorder, not actually a disease. This one now is a disorder, not actually a disease. It's not a disease, it's a disorder. So how do you identify blossom end rot? It's so common with tomato. When you miss some practices, when you don't get some things right relating to maybe calcium supply. So now I would like to dwell on this one a bit. I would like to dwell on this blossom end rot now because I've seen some farmers always mistaking blossom end rot for calcium deficiency. Though normally it's calcium deficiency, but some farmers would be like, it's like I didn't supply calcium or I'm not supplying enough. But what they don't know is that calcium may be present in the nutrient solution you are supplying. But if there are no favorable weather for the calcium to work, you will still experience blossom end rot. Why? Because calcium is not mobile. There are mobile elements like nitrogen and the rest, but for the case of calcium, calcium is not. Okay, now when you try to classify mobile elements, some are highly mobile. Nitrogen is highly mobile. You have highly mobile, you have mobile, and they have some that are not mobile at all. Calcium is not mobile. So it therefore means that you might have supplied enough calcium in your nutrient solution, but you are still experiencing blossom end rot. How come? It means that the calcium did not work. So what caused it? Maybe there are no favorable conditions. So for your calcium to work well, for your plant to obtain calcium very well, there need to be some favorable weather condition, like the weather needs to be warm or hot. So that's why sometimes during rainy season, when it's raining back to back, the plant may find it difficult to uptake calcium because such kind of weather condition, high humidity, does not favor calcium uptake. So you will likely experience blossom end rot in that kind of scenario. So I hope that is clear. So it's not just about supplying calcium. Sometimes you might have supplied calcium, but that calcium you have supplied enough or inadequate concentration, or let's say in a proper concentration, it still needs some favorable weather condition. It still needs some conditions to help it to work. So that's why when some farmers experience blossom end rot on their tomato or pepper or anything at all, they will be like, oh, I'm having calcium deficiency. Is calcium deficiency actually it is a calcium deficiency, but it doesn't mean that there is no calcium present. Calcium is present, but is it really? Is it working? Is the plant able to uptake it? That should be the question you should be asking at that time, not how to go about supplying more calcium. So you can also help the plant. So for indoor growers, maybe let's say you are growing in a greenhouse, you are fine. Because even if you didn't see enough sunlight to help in the uptake, at least the solar or the UV can actually amplify the temperature in the environment and help the plant to uptake it. So I hope that is very clear. Calcium needs some level of some conditions to work. And again, another thing again, yeah, yeah. Wow, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. Okay, it's fine. Okay, it's fine. Let me just rush through. Let me just rush through. So general preventive measures, crop rotation, do not plant tomato in the same spot for at least when you're having issues with all these things, with those diseases as just mentioned. So you ensure proper spacing. Let's go to the next one. Now integrated pest management, because our time is fast spent. Integrated pest management. So integrated pest management is an environmentally sensitive, sustainable approach to managing pests and disease by combining biological, cultural, physical, and chemical tools in a way that minimizes economic, health, and environmental risk. It focuses on long-term prevention and minimizes reliance on chemical tools. So the essence of this thing is just that rather than relying solely on chemical approach in combating pests and disease, adopt other measures. Although it has been established that chemical method is the most effective, but don't just rely on chemical. Adopt other method first. Start with other method. So let's look at the IPM strategies. Cultural control. I may not look at time is already gone. So I just hope that we'll read it. I hope that they are seeing the slide. So they let them just read it and then digest. So let me look at that cultural. The cultural now talking about prevention, changing practices to make the environment less favorable for pests. So you already know that these guys will come. Once you plant, they will come. So what you need to do is that just adopt some practices that will ensure that they don't have favorable weather, favorable condition to develop. So next slide, because time is fast spent. Next slide, next slide, next slide, next slide. Core components of IPM program: monitoring and identification, that is scouting, sampling and trapping to know what pests are present, set action threshold, determine at what point the pest population causes enough damage to justify. So it's not just about treating. Observe, monitor pest population, know the threshold that you have set for them, that once they get to this place, let me combat them before economy losses become inevitable. So implement prevention and control as well. So applying the least harmful method first, evaluate, assessing the result to improve future strategies. So these are IPM components. So scouting. Next slide. Our time is fast spent now. Let's stop here. It's fine. Mr. Timmy, I'm fine. That's fine. So
Okay,
I'm
okay,
done.
okay, we want to stop here. Scouting, right?
Um,
Okay, I understand, sir. So, because the reason why is, well, I know that a lot of people want to ask questions, and last week I know we were unable to take in questions. I think we only took only one question last week. So, I don't know. I know a lot of
that's
people have questions they want to ask you. So that's why I'm trying to cut it. So we have less than maybe 10 minutes to go before the end of the class.
fine.
So, do we have anyone that have a question? Do we have anyone that have a question? Okay, someone is raising. Is that Mr. Said Alabi? Please, can you just tell us what your question is?
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Jude.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you
evening.
for the wonderful lecture. Concerning the IPM and the
Yeah.
INM. So how is one going to be, rotating the program? As in, like some people, for example, some people do spray. They will add pests, they will add nutrients, as in pesticide, they will add nutrients, they will add a fungicide together. Is it advisable to do it, or one should just be following the program strictly? And
Okay.
the second question is, like, if as a farmer now we don't have money to get the expensive seed like the Cobra, Platinum, can one rely on F2 for now, and then one can just be, let's say, when you have money, you can get the F1, just like that of Habanero too, because particularly Habanero is most expensive. So can one just start planting the F2? So when you get your money, you can now say, okay, oh, this is F1, I want to start planting. Thank you.
Okay, so I got your second question clearly, but the first one is not clear. But at least I got some part of the first question. So let me begin from the second question now. So as a commercial farmer, it's not really advisable to be relying on F2. But just like you have said, that when in a case where when you have limited resources, it's
Yeah,
fine. But you really want to make something out of the farming, out of the venture, you need to really get F1. I will tell you why. Now, talking about this seed, I'll give you example. Pawpaw, for example. Pawpaw quality ends at F1. If you go and plant F2, it won't come out well. One, it won't be sweet. It's not usually sweet. Let's say you planted an F1 pawpaw, then you now from that F1 plant, it won't be sweet. Sometimes the fruit, the pawpaw shape will not be sweet. There's no guarantee that it will come out well. Maybe it will not be small. But although I know from experience, I've tried habanero and it came out well, just like the F1. You can see it, but habanero came out well, but that is not a guarantee that others too will come out well. So please, when it has to do with commercial farming, you need to get quality. It begins with quality seed. You get it?
yes.
It begins with quality
Okay.
seed. If you really want to get
Okay.
results, commercial farming, not home garden, commercial farming, it begins with quality seed, which is in most cases F1. So now for the first question, we are like, if I got it right, we are like, some people do spray their chemical and fertilizer together. Is that right?
No, it's trying to say you
Yes,
are
yes.
mixing maybe you are mixing a nutrient with your fertilizer, then mixing your fungicide together, doing no concussion. Sorry, I don't know, just mixing everything together.
Okay,
Yes, yes. Exactly.
okay. So this is it now. You don't just do things blindly, except you can only do it that way if you know what you are doing. And in most cases, it's not advisable for the nutrient. You don't. There are some nutrients you don't mix together. For example, calcium and magnesium don't agree. When they come together, nutrient binding can occur. Do you get it? Is
Yes,
that clear? Then when it comes to
yes, clear.
pesticide too, some people do mix pesticide together and nutrients sometimes too. But before you can mix pesticide together, you need to check whether these two active ingredients, can I mix them together? You need to check, can they go together so that one does not reduce the effect of the other. Do you get it?
But how can one know that this is not is compatible or not?
Okay. Okay, you may have to look for a manual for that now, but let me give you an example. When you mix two pesticides together that are not supposed to go together, a lot of things can happen. One, there can be phytotoxicity. When there's phytotoxicity, it means that your plant will suffer it. Do you get it? It can burn the leaf, or it can burn your plant. Do you get it?
Okay.
When
Yes,
you
yes.
spray two chemicals
That one.
together that are not supposed to go together, it can burn your plant. Another effect again is that one can reduce the effectiveness of another. So you need to be sure that, for example, now there are some pesticides that have multiple active ingredients. Do you get it?
Yes, yes.
Let
Such
me
as
give you
Lagavulin Gold.
let me give you
Such as
example.
Lagavulin Gold.
Let me give you example. Let me give you example. Let's say Lala First Gold.
Yes,
Yes, sir, I
yes.
know
I know
it.
Lara First.
Lala First Gold has two active ingredients mainly, lambda
Tridopin
and
and Lambda.
now let's say for example you want to tackle
Masaya,
something that requires these two active ingredients. You know that you can easily mix imi first and and let's say maybe combat or vanquish together, right?
Mm. Okay.
Hello?
Hello,
Email
I'm
force
with you.
or combat.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello,
I'm
hello.
hearing you,
You
sir.
got it? Or you know now there is normal Lala force apart from Lala force go. So if you know go you didn't see, you can actually mix normal Lala force and imi force together. That gives you that two active ingredient that can be very effective
Mm.
against whitefly, aphid, and thrips and other things. I think that is fine. But before you can mix together, check whether they are compatible, please. Very importantly. So I don't do things blindly.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Okay.
You mentioned about the mobile element before, and
Sorry.
you said calcium is not a mobile element. Sir, can you please explain
Yeah.
more about it?
So, sorry,
Okay. What I mean by
hello, Mr. Joe, sir.
huh?
We have less than
Yeah.
4 minutes right now, so
Okay.
think I'm going to end there. We're going to have, if you have more further question, maybe they can just see you on that, or maybe just
Okay.
reply to see, because
So
you have,
I'll answer that one. Okay.
I can
I'll
answer,
make it
just
snappy.
answer
That
them,
one.
just 1 minute, just a minute, sir, just a minute, sir, to answer that question, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the person that asked that question. So this is it now. The reason why I say it's not mobile is because it's not really. It doesn't really. The transport is not really. The process of transport within the plant cells is not really easy. It doesn't really move. Do you get that?
I'm getting you, sir. I'm getting you.
So when you mean mobile, mobile means to when you have easy movement. Do you get it?
Yes, I'm getting you, sir.
So
I'm getting you.
calcium cannot really on its own cannot really move from one part of the plant to another. In most cases, plants uptake these things from their root. Then it will not travel from different plant part to another different plant part. From do you get it?
Yes, I'm
So
getting you.
before calcium can move, before calcium can even work in the plant, they need to be favorable conditions. That's why for not you don't need anything. It will just travel on its own. It doesn't travel easily. Calcium does not travel easily. It
What
doesn't
are
even
the things
travel
that
like
are
that.
supposed to be present before calcium will be active, sir?
Okay, I think I mentioned it earlier on. Favorable weather condition. When the weather is too much cold, when the weather is too cold, calcium cannot really work well at that point. So that's why you tend to have blossom end rot. When the weather is too hot, and warm, but outside or in a net house, it becomes a problem for your tomato. Tomato in particular, it may not be an issue with pepper.
So
So,
during that time, can we be spraying the calcium on
sorry,
top of our
sorry,
plants?
hello,
Is
sorry.
this
It
advisable?
cannot supply. Yeah, it cannot supply. If you have some, if you have some foliar spray, you can help the plant. Yes, you can help the plant
Yeah, you
in
can.
that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
So, so thank you so much,
So
sir,
that is
for
fine.
this presentation, sir. I really appreciate you, sir. Our time is fast.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you for this, for honoring our presentation, sir. Thank you so much. And to our people here, thank you for joining. And SAKT class continue. This is not the last class for SAKT class. We have more classes. So thank you so much for joining tonight. Thank you so much for Mr. Jutsa. Thank you so much again. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
So
Thank you, Mr.
I'm just
Jude.
concerned we didn't have enough time. I was just rushing through the whole teaching, but it's fine.
Yes, sir. So if you have another
I
question,
hope next time I'll have more time.
you can just forward it to us, or we can send it to Mr. Jude. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining, sir.
Okay, it's fine. You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good night, sir.
Yeah, welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.